Good afternoon, boys and girls. Today's story is called The Last Polar Bears by Harry Horse. It's one of my favourite stories, very funny. I'm going to read you the picture book version, which is a little bit shorter. If you enjoy it and think it's funny and you're a bit older, you might want to look for the chapter version, which has even more funny tales in it. The Last Polar Bears by Harry Horse. All my life, I have wanted to see how polar bears really live. The first time I saw one, there was no snow for him to roll around in, no icebergs for him to float upon. That was no life for a polar bear. So I decided that I would go to the North Pole to see how they really lived. I found a map of Great Bear Ridge and straight away knew that that is where I would find them. I wanted to buy a husky and a sledge to drag my equipment across the snow, but they cost too much money. In the end, I had to take Roo and a golf trolley. Roo said that her breed were very good on snow, better than huskies probably. Now Roo is Grandad's dog, and Roo is very, very funny in this story. I loaded the golf trolley with all the things that we would need for our journey. We crept out of the house and set sail for the North Pole on a ship called the Unsinkable. Our cabin had 2 portholes, one for Roo and one for me. I saw a whale. Roo said she saw a sheep. It took Roo a while to get used to being on a ship. She lost her ball overboard. And I had to tie her to the mast to stop her jumping in after it. Roo asked the captain if she could have a go at steering. For half an hour we went round and round in circles. Roo said you were supposed to steer like that. It was a long way to the North Pole. We sailed through storms and high seas, and it grew colder and colder. Roo wore my socks to keep her paws warm. Every day Roo asked if we were there yet, and every day I had to tell her, not yet, but soon, very soon. Then, one night, the ship took a real pounding from a dreadful storm. The engine stopped completely, and when the captain tried to get it going again, nothing happened. Until Roo helped. Hurrah! At last we landed at a place called Walrus Bay. The captain wished me luck and gave Roo a tin of macaroni cheese. I think he really liked her. We were sad to see him go. We were welcomed into Walrus by hundreds of penguins, but no polar bears. Our cabin stood on a hill just outside Walrus. It was very dirty inside and it seemed quite gloomy, but we soon cleaned it up. It wasn't much, but it was home. Our first night at the North Pole was very cold. Roo could not sleep in her basket and she got into my bed. Her paws stuck into me and she fidgeted about so much I hardly slept a wink. To make matters worse, a wolf sat on our roof and howled all night. The next day, I wanted to begin our search for the polar bears, but the snow kept falling. It snowed so much that it almost buried our cabin. For 3 days we were cooped up and our fuel ran low. I had to burn the chairs and Roo's basket to keep us warm. Roo was very upset about her basket. She said that she had wanted to keep things in it. I said it was a pity she hadn't slept in it. Sometimes I wish I had brought a husky. I tried to sleep, but was woken by more wolves running across the roof. Rue said that she was tired of looking for polar bears and she wanted to go home now. She said that it was sand that her breed were good on, not snow. At last it stopped snowing and I took Rue out to a place called the Gentle Slopes. There she could practice pulling the golf trolley through the snow. However, halfway up the slope, Rue decided she wanted to go down and she took off, dragging my golf trolley behind her. I was so angry with Rue that when we got home, I didn't speak to her for ages. In the end, she looked so sorry that I had to tell her that the Great Bear ice cream story to cheer her up. Once upon a time, I told her, the snow was so pure and clean that it tasted better than the finest ice cream. But as the air got dirtier from all the chemicals and fumes, the snow lost its taste. The last of the world's ice cream lies up on Great Bear Ridge, and that is why we are going there, to get ice cream for Rue. Rue loves this story. I have told it her many times. I must admit that I have added bits. The fabulous chocolate mint chip that grows in the shade, or the delicious strawberry split found only at sunset. These are my own inventions. Afterwards, Rue felt much better and she said that she was keen to get up there. That afternoon, we went down to Walrus to stock up on provisions for our journey to find the polar bears. We spent a long time searching at the shops as everything lay buried beneath the snow. Eventually, we found the mailing station after Rue fell down the chimney. I bought a pair of wellies, some fish, cheese, candles and sausages. Rue bought a picture of a rabbit, an old bone and some jam labels. I wish she wouldn't waste her money. Afterwards, I played golf on the snowfields behind Walrus. I found that golf kept my spirits up. I hit a good shot across a glacier and the ball flew through the air like a rocket. When I got to where the ball lay, I found a little penguin lying in the snow. My ball had hit him on the head. I put him in my golf bag and I took him back to the cabin. Rue was very annoyed and said, "Why don't you just invite the whole of the Arctic into our home and be done with it? We could fill the place with sea lions, Arctic foxes and seabirds, and we could sleep outside." Hip hip hooray and 3 cheers! The penguin woke up the next day and seemed much better. He climbed all over my bed and wanted to get in with me. I like the little fellow. Rue said, "He smells of fish." Look at Rue's face. I planned our route on the map. It was going to be a long walk to the Great Bear Ridge. Outside, the sky was changing colours all the time. Something very strange was happening. I decided it was time for us to set off. We climbed high above the gentle slopes until we left Walrus far behind. Rue sped along and said she was in a hurry to reach the ice cream. Halfway up the Great Bear Ridge, we pitched the tent and crawled inside. We had a large meal and we went to sleep. Disaster struck the next morning when a large gust of wind blew the tent away. We watched it float over Blue Whale Bay. The wind started to blow harder. I tied us all to a rope so that none of us would blow away too. We struggled on, but it was so windy. We eventually stopped and made an igloo. The wind grew more fierce and we had just finished the igloo when the storm hit. It blew the trolley up into the air, taking Roo with it. I only just managed to pull her back down with my golf club, but the trolley and everything else had gone. We were so hungry and all of our food had blown away. But then Roo brought out the tin of macaroni that the captain had given her. What a clever dog! After eating it, we all huddled together in my sleeping bag to try to keep warm. Meanwhile, the storm got more and more fierce. Suddenly, the storm stopped. We all crawled outside and walked up the last bit to the Great Bear Ridge. Roo ran ahead like dogs do. When we got to the top, we saw the most beautiful sight. The last polar bears were there, playing with their cubs, rolling in the snow, floating on icebergs. And there too was some ice cream for Roo. Now, some of you may know that actually polar bears and penguins don't live in the same place. There's an apology at the beginning from the author that says, "My grandfather claims to have seen penguins on his journey to the North Pole. He must have been mistaken, as it is widely known that penguins are only to be found in the South Pole. So, for the purposes of this story, I have kept the penguins in." Roo says she wishes I had kept them out. The last polar bears. Good afternoon.